The second we stepped into St. Mercy's, something shifted. The air was thick, like we were being watched. But it wasn't until we heard the footsteps that we knew we had made a mistake. The silence in the hospital wasn't normal. It was waiting. I felt it the moment we crossed the threshold. The four of us, me, Lexi, Dan, and Mia, weren't ready for what this place had in store. The hospital wasn't just abandoned. It was alive, feeding off us, watching every step we took. The walls were covered in strange drawings, but they weren't just graffiti. They felt like warnings, desperate, unheeded warnings. We weren't alone. We pushed on. There was this light, flickering at the end of the hallway, and before we could question it, we heard footsteps behind us. Heavy, slow, deliberate, then faster. Dan said it was just the building, but I knew better. We all did. Something was coming for us, and it was closer than we wanted to believe. The footsteps grew louder until they were thundering toward us. We ran. But this wasn't like running through any normal place. The hospital shifted around us. The walls stretched, the floors groaned, and no matter how far we ran, it felt like we were getting nowhere. The lights flickered violently above us, casting shadows that moved on their own. When we slammed into the stairwell, the footsteps stopped. For a moment, I thought we were safe. But that's when the whispering started. Soft, raspy voices from the top of the stairs. They spoke in a language none of us understood. Mia started crying, begging us to leave. But something in me, some twisted curiosity or force I didn't understand, pushed me forward. I should have listened to her. We climbed the stairs, and at the top was the psych ward. The doors hung open, darkness spilling out like it had been waiting for us. Inside, the smell hit us, like rot and decay, mixed with something metallic. Then, there she was, a nurse, or what used to be a nurse. She stood at the far end of the hallway, her back to us. She was too still, like a mannequin. But when she turned, I froze. Her eyes were hollow, just black pits, and her smile was too wide, stretching across her face in a way no human could manage. She didn't speak. She just watched us, like she knew what was coming. Suddenly, the lights went out. We were plunged into complete darkness. I could hear Lexi breathing fast beside me, Dan muttering something under his breath, but my flashlight wouldn't turn back on. I fumbled with it, and when the beam flickered back to life, the nurse was gone. But then we saw them, the patients, the ones who didn't leave. They crawled out from the rooms, their bodies twisted and broken, some dragging themselves on the floor, others stumbling on bent legs. Their faces were contorted in silent screams, their mouths hanging open in endless agony. But no sound came from them. They were coming for us. Slow, deliberate, like they had all the time in the world. The worst part? Their eyes. Vacant but somehow locked onto us, filled with this hunger, like they hadn't fed in decades, and we were their first meal. Lexi screamed. She bolted, running back toward the stairwell. The rest of us followed, but it was no use. The hospital wasn't letting us leave. The walls seemed to close in, the hallway twisting, like we were being herded into a trap. Then, Lexi was gone. Just gone. 1 second she was in front of me. The next, the shadows swallowed her whole. Her scream echoed for a second before it was cut off, leaving only silence. Dan lost it. He started running in the opposite direction, shouting Lexi's name. But it didn't matter. We weren't getting out of here. The nurse appeared again, but this time, she was standing right in front of him, that same twisted smile on her face. She reached out with skeletal hands, and the lights flickered again. Dan didn't even scream. He just vanished. Now it was just me and Mia. We ran, but no matter how fast we moved, the footsteps followed. Every door we reached was slammed shut, every exit blocked. It was like the hospital was playing with us, waiting until we were too tired to keep going. Mia fell, and before I could reach her, something yanked her back into the darkness. I heard her scream, but then it was gone, like the hospital swallowed her too. And then, I was alone. That's when I heard the whisper again, this time calling my name. I turned slowly, and there she was. The nurse, her eyes blacker than the night around us, her smile stretching even wider. She stepped closer, and I felt my body freeze. I couldn't move. Her hand, cold and skeletal, reached out, brushing against my face. I realized too late. The hospital hadn't just taken my friends. It was taking me too, pulling me into whatever twisted nightmare it existed in. The last thing I saw was her smile, her mouth opening unnaturally wide, as everything around me went black. And now, I wait, just like the others, because St. Mercy's never lets you leave. It just takes you, piece by piece, until you're part of it forever.